Okay, welcome back. This is the final section as we're talking about how we choose to live in 2021 and beyond. If you're watching this for the first time, this is Toyo B for Life's Priority, and wherever you're watching this, there should be some links to 3 other short video clips that takes you on this journey of how we can set clearer goals, objectives as we go into 2021. We've talked about the importance of, from a biblical perspective, that we are loved by God and that shapes our identity. And we've talked about what that looks like, setting identity goals first. And then in the last one, we just looked at habit goals and the importance of setting habit goals, which would be things that we're choosing to do daily, weekly, monthly. And as I've said, I believe that if we put more emphasis on the habit goals, I think it would help us to direct our lives in the way we want to go, because the habit goals is really where things are. It's your daily habit that creates your routine, and it's your routine that eventually determines the direction that you're going to go in. So really important part. One cannot overemphasize the importance of setting habit goals in those categories that were mentioned. And if you want to go back to that, please do watch that one before this, because this one here is a outcome goals, and unfortunately we've put so much emphasis on this in the past, or I have anyway, and realize that many times we don't achieve them. But let's think about, from a biblical perspective, what are we trying to achieve here? Now, Jesus himself said, keep on asking and you receive what you ask for. Keep on seeking and you will find. Keep on knocking and the door will be open to you. For everyone who asks receives, everyone who seeks finds, and to everyone who knocks the door will be opened. And one of the things Jesus was saying here is that God is a God who does answer our prayers. He sees the desires in our hearts, and he really does want to give us good gifts. And Jesus goes on to say, hey, we fathers, when a child asks for an egg, would you give the child a snake? If they ask for bread, will we give them a different thing? No. It says, how much more your Father in heaven. So a really important perspective that what you find in the parables that and in the stories that Jesus tells is that Jesus tells us the story about a loving God. And I wish I had more time to even expound on this, but I think it's one of the areas that we miss. An example would be the Luke 15, it's called the prodigal son, right? But really the emphasis is on the loving Father. We see ourselves in the story as either the prodigal son who left or the other son who stayed behind. We fix our eyes there in those directions and not fix enough of our attention, pay enough attention to the Father who is loving, who's waiting, who's actually running towards his son. And I think that's an important part, because even when it comes to this area of asking God for things, personally, I have sometimes felt like, why do I want to bother God? Or is it a good thing to desire things and to push myself to see things happen? And I think there is an area where we've got to ask ourselves, whatever I'm asking for, is it a selfish thing? Is it something that is just to help me? Is it, so that's another. Obviously, it will be important to categorize and also analyze what is it that I'm asking for. Is it just for my own benefit, or can everybody benefit from it? So there will be things that you want to see happen in your life, and I think that is important. And I'll give some examples of what that might look like. But what I find that sometimes we do is that we then set so many goals. Now, this is some research that was done by a company called Franklin Covey, and what they found was that when people set goals that were 4 to 10, 11 to 20, as you can see, the more the number of goals that were set, the less was achieved. And that's simply because of the principle that when it comes to goals, you need to focus on less in order to achieve more. And as you can see there, they focused on when they focused on 2 to 3, the 2 to 3 were more likely to be achieved. But the moment it went above that, it went in the other direction. So based on this research, I think it's important that when it comes to outcome goals, we should actually have less. So 2 to 3 maximum, as you can see. If it's 1, even more brilliant, because you're able to focus on them and then pay attention to them throughout the year, and it's more likely gonna, God also these are some principles, and this is the thing also that we need to be aware of, is that God in his wisdom has set some things up as principles. It's not rocket science. You don't have to be a Christian to be able to benefit from this. This is more like just stay focused, and obviously the ultimate goal is seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all other things will be added. So there are a few things that somehow need to always be on the focus, but there are some goals that you can have. So what might this look like? Let's look at some examples as we talk about outcome goals, or what we might say results given goals. So choose maximum 3 outcome goals, and some examples could be, for instance, to launch the business this year. That's something that I'm thinking about, right? Serve in a ministry or a charity. This is something that at the end of 2021, you'll be able to look back and tick. You get the point. Now, again, let me just sort of highlight what I found. What I used to do was I would have set this kind of goals in those categories that I mentioned in just the last video. For instance, with God, I might have said, I want to read the whole Bible, right? And then in the area of spouse, it would be, I want to do XYZ, or in the area of the family, they would have all been outcome goals. And because of doing that in that way, which one became priority? And it gets a lot confused. I got confused. I got confused around, am I trying to drive a result, from my marriage, from my children, from my work, from my this, from my that? And it just became complicated. And what I found was that when I set habit goals in those areas, so if it simply was to read the Bible daily, you get my point. Like, I will then achieve that reading the Bible throughout the year, but it's not that I've put it as a result. I hope you're seeing the distinction here. This is the habit. So I'm tracking the habit more than the result. It's the same with exercise. My good friend Bevis gave me this perspective when I said, I need to lose weight. And he said, well, that's the result, which is fine, but really you want to exercise regularly. So if I'm measuring my exercise 3 or 4 times a week, right, then eventually you'll find that I've created a habit that should keep my weight in check. So you get the point. So there will be certain habit goals that help you to achieve the results, but you're not worried about the results because you're putting more focus on the habit. Now, the distinction here is that you now do have some things that you want to see a result. So you want to start a family, that you could check into the habits, but the result is what you're praying about. You want to start a family. You want to complete a course. You've seen something that, a certain study, something that you want to enroll yourself into. You want to complete that course, you want to help someone to come to Christ. Again, you can, that one again, it depends. So for me, I wouldn't necessarily put that down as a result because I'm not in control. But I put it there because I know that it could be something that, it's been such a long time, it's something that you're really praying about this year, and it obviously helps somebody else. So it does serve, somebody else. But for me, I would put that more down in terms of ministry. I'll put it down as the habit of studying the Bible with people, like being open to study the Bible with people on a weekly basis. I will put that in the habit category, but notwithstanding, you can put it here as well. Start discipling somebody. Again, it's the starting that it makes it the result, because that's not something that you've been doing. So you can look at different areas of your life and choose 3 areas, I would suggest maximum, where you want to make it more of a result goal. Buy the house this year, move house this year, all these kind of travel to this place, go and serve in this place. These are results goals, because you're not doing that, and it's not necessarily a habit, and it's more like it's something that you can tick off and say, this happened this year. So I hope this helps as I wrap up here. Now, just to remind us that as we set these goals, we're thinking just this year, 2021, but we should also be thinking of long term, and we should never ever lose sight of the ultimate goal. And in 1 Corinthians chapter 9, Paul wrote, he says, "So I run with purpose in every step. I'm not just shadow boxing. I discipline my body like an athlete, training to do what it should. Otherwise, I fear that after preaching to others, I myself might be disqualified." There's a prize that God has in store for us, which I think is really, 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 really important for us not to take our focus off the ultimate goal. Do you not know that those who run in a race all run, but only one receives the prize? Run in such a way that you may win. So in as much as we might set some objectives, goals, and things that we want to see in 2021, by God's grace, we must always, look forward to what it says in 2 Peter, a new heaven and a new earth. And if we keep our eyes, set our hearts and minds on things above, then these yearly objectives and goals should be simply a path that is helping us in the direction where we ultimately want to go. So I hope this has helped. Again, maybe you're watching this through a link. You can subscribe to the video of my channel on YouTube, or you can go to livespriority.org, and you can also download my free ebook, How to Have Transformational Quiet Times with God, which I'll send you some videos of how to engage with God in prayer and Bible study, which might help. I hope this has helped you to have an idea of how we can categorize and have some clarity of how we move into 2021 and beyond. And if you're watching this in 2021, you want to do a reset, no problem. If you're watching this in 2022 and beyond, I think it still is valid, because it's more the principles that we can get across. But thank you for watching. And if you want to contact, you can also, when you go to the website, livespriority.org, subscribe, and then we'll be in touch. Thank you very much. And also, you can also follow on Facebook and Twitter, and you should be able to see my links on the website, livespriority.org, to follow us there as well. Thank you very much. Take care.